My beloved child, I know the ache in your soul, the unanswered questions you've whispered into the silence of your nights, the tear-stained pillows and the silent screaming inside your spirit that asked why something so beautiful, so desired, was suddenly taken from your life. But hear me clearly now. What was removed was not a punishment, but a rescue. I saw what you cannot see. I heard conversations behind closed doors, felt the intentions hidden behind smiles, and saw the chains forming around your soul when you believed you were being blessed. I watched as your heart wrapped itself around what you thought was love, purpose, or destiny, but I saw how slowly it was suffocating you, pulling you into cycles that would have destroyed the very light I placed inside you. I did not abandon you when I allowed that door to shut. I was standing on the other side, holding what your soul truly needed. You mourned what you wanted because you did not yet understand the magnitude of what I was preparing. Your prayers were not ignored. They were answered in a higher dimension, on a scale far beyond what your human eyes could perceive. You asked me for peace, so I removed the person who stirred chaos. You asked me for stability, so I broke the foundation that was never meant to hold you. You asked me for true love, so I took away what felt like love, but was built on conditions, performance, and illusion. You do not see the way I see, child. You grieve what I have taken, but you are not yet praising me for what I have kept from entering your life. There are battles I fought for you that you will never see, heartbreaks I prevented, betrayals I exposed, and manipulations I interrupted with divine precision. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it felt like loss. But I do not take without intention, and I do not subtract without the promise of greater multiplication. What you wanted was temporary relief, but I wanted eternal freedom for you. What you were pleading to keep was a reflection of where you used to be, not where I am taking you. And because I love you too much to let you settle for less than what heaven has written over your life, I allowed that shaking to occur. That person, that job, that home, that plan, it may have felt like your future, but I saw how it would have delayed your calling, distorted your identity, and depleted your spiritual strength. Trust me, I am not withholding to punish. I am withholding to protect. Every closed door, every unanswered text, every opportunity that slipped through your fingers was part of my orchestration to align you with what is eternal, pure, and holy. You are walking through a divine rerouting, and though you feel lost in this transition, you are being led closer to your true purpose than ever before. I do not ask you to understand the path, only to trust the hand that is guiding you through it. What you truly need is coming. Not just a replacement for what you lost, but a divine upgrade that carries peace, clarity, and sacred alignment. Stay in the posture of surrender. Do not fight to revive what I allowed to end. Let your faith be louder than your mourning, because on the other side of this pruning is a harvest that will make you weep with joy. I have not forgotten you. I have not abandoned your prayers. I am simply shaping the story in a way that only I can. And if you knew what I was about to reveal, you would thank me for every no you cried over. The pain has a purpose. The absence has an answer. The silence is full of strategies you cannot yet comprehend. What you needed required the removal of what you wanted, and soon, so very soon, you will look back and understand that this was not rejection. It was divine redirection. I need you to understand, beloved, that while you were holding tightly to what was familiar, I was already sending the winds of heaven to shift everything that was quietly killing your spirit behind closed doors. And though your heart screamed in confusion when they left, when the opportunity vanished, when the connection suddenly dissolved without explanation, I was gently pulling you out of something you would have never escaped on your own, something that was quietly eroding your divine confidence, something that was cloaking your soul in counterfeit comfort while starving you of true purpose. Because the enemy often sends distractions disguised as destiny. And I watched how your spirit began to shrink just to keep peace, how your voice grew quieter, how your dreams began to dim just to make someone else feel bright in your shadow. But you did not see that, child. Not yet, because you were still tethered to what you thought you needed, still hoping that what felt good was somehow part of what was truly God. But now I'm peeling back the veil. I am letting you feel the tension because it is revealing where your roots were planted in shallow soil, where your identity was tied to things I never asked you to cling to. And though I saw your loyalty and your effort, and your genuine desire to love and build and grow, I also saw how that person, that plan, that environment was not evolving with you. It was resisting your growth, shrinking your wings, locking you into patterns that I broke generations ago so you wouldn't have to live inside of them. And so I allowed the discomfort, I allowed the disconnection, I allowed the silence and the storm because it was the only way to pull you back into alignment with your anointing. And I know it feels unfair. I know it feels like I took something precious from your hands. But the truth is, it was never meant to stay. And you've been praying for miracles while gripping tightly to the very thing I needed you to. Release, because I can only pour new oil into hands that are open, not clenched around the past. And if I gave you what you wanted, you would have built your future on a foundation that was secretly cracking beneath the surface. And I love you too much to let you spend your energy, your years, your heart on what will eventually collapse under the weight of your calling. So I interrupted the illusion. I exposed the truth. I brought things to light, not to break you, but to build you with greater vision. And though right now it feels like loss, it is the seed of divine recovery, because what I am preparing for you is so much deeper, richer, and more sacred than what was removed. And soon you will realize that the distance was a gift, the goodbye was mercy, the denial was protection, the closed door was the doorway to something heaven authored and hell proof. And I will not stop working until you are standing inside of what I promised, with a heart no longer divided, with eyes that see clearly, with strength forged through surrender, with peace that can't be shaken by temporary absence, because you are not just receiving a blessing, you are becoming the blessing, the testimony, the evidence that what I take away, I replace with greater glory. And the space that now feels like emptiness is about to be filled with something so holy, so precise, so personal, that it will silence every doubt, every fear, and every voice that tried to convince you I wasn't listening, because I was. Every moment, every tear, every question. I was working even when it looked like nothing was changing. I was shifting even when you felt abandoned. I was protecting you from outcomes your heart could not survive. And though you begged me to let you keep it, I had to say no, because I was making room for what will never leave, never harm, never use, and never diminish you. And child, if you only knew what I see ahead, you would stop crying over what was taken and start praising me for what's coming. My child, there are depths to your calling that you haven't yet imagined, realms of spiritual power and healing that are being unlocked within you because of what you lost, not in spite of it. This is the divine paradox, that in the moments you feel most abandoned, you're actually being most embraced, and in the moments when everything you built begins to crumble, you're finally standing on the threshold of what cannot be shaken. And yes, I allowed the collapse, not because you failed, but because I never anointed that structure in the first place. It was built on your desperation to feel whole, your desire to be chosen, your need to prove that you were enough. But now, finally, I am drawing you in a wholeness that does not depend on performance or praise or people who never really saw your soul. And the healing you are about to walk into will not be shallow. It will not be a temporary bandage for an eternal ache. It will not be a distraction, a rebound, or a reward for surviving. Pain, it will be the resurrection of your divine identity, the restoration of the parts of you that were stolen when you gave your loyalty to those who only love the version of you that serve their needs. And I am telling you this now, not to shame you, but to free you, because you did nothing wrong by loving fully, by giving deeply, by hoping bravely. But the reason it had to end was not because you were unworthy. It was because they were not worthy to stand beside what I am now birthing in. You, in this next season of your life, child, will not look like the last one. It will not be built on constant emotional negotiation, wondering where you stand, questioning your value, shrinking your light to avoid making others uncomfortable. No. Now, I will surround you with those who speak to your spirit, not just your circumstances, those who honor your presence without needing to control your process. Those who can recognize the oil on your life because they carry oil of their own, and in order for that to manifest, I had to clear space. I had to remove what you were desperately clinging to, because even though it felt safe, it was actually delaying the divine connections I have ordained for your rising. This is the part of your story where I am stripping you of the illusion of need, the belief that you cannot go on without the thing you lost, because I'm showing you that I, and I alone, am the source of your joy, your peace, your clarity, and your future. And when that truth is rooted inside you, no loss will shake you again the way this one did, because you will understand that anything truly from me cannot be lost, cannot be manipulated away, cannot be destroyed by lies or distance or human will. What is divinely assigned to you will always return or remain, and if it left, it was not yours to carry forward. And child, the moment you stop trying to resuscitate what I've buried is the moment resurrection power begins to flow into what's ahead, because you can't take the weight of the past into the throne room of your future. And what I'm building in you now requires new strength, new clarity, and new faith. Not faith in outcomes, but faith in my character, faith in the unseen, faith that when I remove something, it is never random, it is never cruel. It is always, always a setup for divine release. And if you only knew the magnitude of the blessing that is waiting to be revealed, you would stop asking why it had to end and start asking how to prepare for what's about to begin, because this is not the end of your story. This is the end of a chapter that could not hold the weight of your true anointing. And everything you're grieving now will be the very soil from which your miracle will rise, sevenfold, stronger, sacred, and sealed by my hand. And now, beloved, as the dust begins to settle and your spirit starts to breathe again, I need you to understand what truly just happened in your life. Not with fear, not with confusion, but with divine clarity, because what felt like a collapse was actually a sacred clearing. What felt like abandonment was a hidden rescue. And what felt like rejection was my redirection into the very place where your identity and your purpose can no longer be hijacked by those who only wanted access to your light without respecting the fire that fuels it. For I am the God who sees beyond what you see, who hears the prayers you don't speak aloud, and who shields you from unseen warfare that would have swallowed your soul had I not stepped in with force and finality. And though you felt betrayed by the silence, I was thundering in the spirit realm, severing ties with my own hand, silencing voices that were distorting your worth, and removing pieces of your past that were still shaping how you saw your future, because you were still asking me to bless what you had outgrown, still begging me to fix what was never built for your calling, still fighting for people who only clung to you when it was convenient. And child, I could not let you keep watering dead ground when your harvest was being delayed. Because of it, I could not let you keep laying hands on broken foundations when I've called you to walk in resurrection. I could not allow you to keep dragging their indecision into the promised land I've been preparing for you. And so, yes, I removed it. I removed the wish, the dream, the idol you unknowingly built from your own pain, the fantasy you held on to, because it shielded you from the fear of standing alone. But now, you are not alone. You are aligned, anointed, and surrounded by my glory. And the ache in your chest is not proof that I failed you. It is proof that something sacred is shifting, that your soul is expanding to carry what I've always had in store for you. And though you don't see it yet, though it hasn't touched your hands or entered your inbox or knocked on your door, the promise has already been released in the spirit. The miracle has already started unfolding behind the veil, and the connections, the breakthroughs, the healing, the divine replacements, they are being arranged even now by angels assigned specifically to your path, and they're bringing with them not just restoration, but revelation. The moment you stop begging for what broke. You is the moment heaven began building what will bless you. And I will not give you a counterfeit just to soothe your loneliness. I will not give you a temporary fix to stop the tears. I will give you what is eternal, what is holy, what is woven in the secret places with threads of gold and fire and purpose. And when it arrives, it will not feel like striving. It will feel like peace. It will feel like joy rising from places that were once numb, like clarity falling like rain over confusion, like a soul finally remembering its assignment. And you will look back, child, and weep not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming realization that I was never punishing you. I was positioning you, and everything I removed was blocking what your spirit had been crying out for all along, even when your words said otherwise. So now, rise from the ashes, wipe your face, square your shoulders, and get ready. Because what's coming next is going to make sense of every delay, every unanswered prayer, every lonely night, and every no you thought was the end. And you will testify, not just with words, but with a life so transformed by my timing that others will see your joy and know without a doubt this was the hand of God.